Welcome to Third Floor Views, a production of Chesapeake Family Life, where we talk about health, education, and living with kids. I'm your host, Janet Jefferson. So first off, I just want to say happy Juneteenth. So last year we did do an episode on the history of Juneteenth, and we talked to Jessica Smith Hebron from the Prince George's African American Museum and Cultural Center. And that's archived on our website, and I definitely recommend checking that out because we do dive into the history of Juneteenth. And then we also talk about Prince George's African American Museum and Cultural Center and some of their offerings. And it's a great resource. So I definitely recommend checking them out. They are still mostly virtual, but they do have some really cool things that they're offering, including some like boxes that you can pick up and things like that. So let's get started for today. We are going to be talking about playgrounds, awesome playgrounds in the area. And joining us today is Katrina Kessler, and she is a playground blogger. So welcome, Katrina. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
To our viewers, please let me know if you have any comments or questions. Just throw them into the comments section and we'll get to those as we can. Today's going to be a little bit different. We are going to do a slideshow, so you'll actually get to see some of these playgrounds. So as we're doing that, I might not be able to see your comments or questions, but we'll definitely get to them in the end. Okay, so first things, Katrina, is I'd really just love to hear a little bit about you and how you got into playgrounds, because I know you've been to over 50 playgrounds in a very short period of time since September. So how did you get into this, and what's your background?
Okay, thank you for the introduction. Yes, I'm Katrina. I have a master's in counseling psychology, and I've been working in the mental health field for over a decade, but I'm also a mom of two toddlers, a 4.5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. I grew up in Maryland, and I lived in New York City for 6 years. And then because of the pandemic, we moved back to Maryland. And so when we got back, we spent a lot of time inside or in the backyard when things were shut down. Then the playgrounds finally opened. It felt like our only place to go. So I wanted to plan some escapes with my children. And even though I was from the area, I wasn't familiar with the places to take kids. So I went to a neighborhood playground one day and someone recommended a few places to me. Another mom did. And the next month I was talking to a friend, and then I recommended those places. And it just felt so supportive to, in such an isolating time during the pandemic, when parents were very isolated, we couldn't take our children. It felt nice to be able to give and receive suggestions. So it just felt like something I wanted to kind of look into. So I started an Instagram page, Maryland Kiddos, and I started posting the places we were going. And it was really a collaborative project, working with the parents on the pages. So they would give me ideas, and then I would give them back to the audience. It was kind of like take a penny, give a penny style. We were working together. And specifically one of the reasons I was drawn towards playgrounds was my younger son, who because of COVID, he had never been in classes and had much exposure to other places and people. He was hesitant in exploring new places with a lot of new people. So when I took him to a playground, it was just so inviting, the bright colors and structures, that he couldn't resist. And that's what I love about playgrounds. As adults, we often see just kind of like, okay, some colorful equipment to entertain our children. But, I think children see so much more. I think they see adventure and opportunity and challenge. And, like when they see a swing, they see an airplane to go fly to the sky, or they go into, the top of the tower and they see where I can spot dinosaurs. It's just, I appreciate that aspect of playgrounds. Like, it's an invitation to play. It encourages curiosity, and it gives confidence to my children. I can really back off and not be with them and watch them and see what they want to do. So yes, as you said, that's what got me started on visiting over 50 playgrounds since fall. And yeah, I just think playgrounds are an invitation to play. The pavilions around them, the mulch, the trails, that's all part of it. They go to explore. It's exploring a whole space. So I really enjoyed it. And I never thought I would be, a playground blogger, but here I am and I'm loving it.
That's awesome. It does sound like a lot of fun. And I think to some degree gives you certain direction, like, okay, we're going to a different one today. And there's always something to explore and discover. It sounds like a really good mission. So after 50 plus playgrounds, what makes a good playground? What are things that you notice or are looking for?
Yeah, so that's a tricky question because I think it depends on the child. For a parent, we want easy, available parking with a shaded spot to sit on and watch the children and not have to move a lot after we've been with them for a while, right? Especially during pandemic. So I appreciate a playground, especially when our younger children, that they can be self-sufficient. They can climb up onto the equipment easily. There's a low access point, and that I can step back and kind of watch them build their confidence and come if they ask for help. And I can take a breath. But for children, I think it can differ. I have my older daughter, she's adventurous and quicker to explore on her own, where my son's a little slower to warm. So he actually, in those big playgrounds with a lot of more people, he doesn't explore as much. He kind of stays by me. And he really likes the small playgrounds. He really likes the quiet, just simple playgrounds. And so I think it depends, and there's some that are themed, like dragon playgrounds. So I mean, if you have a kid who likes dragons, there's a awesome one in Bowie, which is actually shut down today. But the dragon, I was told by the moms, they keep me in the loop. But the dragon playground, it's fenced in. There's dragons, there's castles, so there's themes. I never knew there were themed playgrounds. Back in my day, there weren't. So I think it depends on the personality of the child, and it's definitely worth looking up some of the themed playgrounds too if your child really likes something.
Yeah, I can see how it could be a great access point for a lot of different kids, depending on what their interests are, what direction to go in. Well, let's get started. So we have quite the list to go through, and they're sort of divided into the different categories. So I am going to share my screen, and then here we go. Let me jump in. Okay. So how's that look?
Let me see. Yep.
Great. Okay. So these are the best playgrounds. And I'm sure, Katrina, this is constantly changing as you continue to explore. But the first one and this is sort of the different things that we're going to hit. We're going to talk about summer playgrounds, hidden gems, specialty playgrounds, playgrounds really hitting on multiple ages, and then of course favorites. And then Katrina has a few others to throw in at the end. So my first question was, what are some great summer playgrounds? So I'm thinking about access to shade or even water.
Yeah, so I have here first Cabin John Regional Park in Bethesda. And this was taken, that picture, in the winter, so the trees aren't bloomed, but now it's full of shade and it's really big. And so when the kids are out of school, playgrounds get more crowded. So it's actually like this huge wooded space with tons of different structures. And so I always love that. Like I said, with my son, he wants a little of his own space. And so with the trees and all the shade, it's just a wonderful option to get shade. And I have to say, there aren't that many shaded playgrounds as you would think. So this is a special thing to be able to access.
Right here, this is, I think, another shot. And yeah, you can see how it is really big, and there are these different sections.
You can see my daughter's wearing a coat. So it was like, the trees aren't bloomed, but it was really a fun one it was like you're in the woods.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's, I think, always special. Then kids think about, dragons and fairies and other things like that. All right. So then here's another summer favorite. Ooh.
Yes, this park, you can help me pronounce if I'm saying it wrong, but Granville Gude Park is how I read it. But I found this playground about a month or two ago, and it's one of my favorite playgrounds because when we went there was no one there. It was so shaded. You can see the shade, right there. And it was by water. So there's kind of a breeze coming up. You could see water, nice. Which is nice. And it was like spring. And this has a frog. It has a turtle, a fake one, that won my daughter over because she absolutely loves those animals. And it just had different structures. So it had kind of an older kid give or take what you call older kid, and then a younger area. And I love that because I feel like the kids can kind of separate. And it was just so quaint and cute, and I loved it. And it was colorful, and there's like that little butterfly at the top. It was beautiful. It's so funny. I think playgrounds are beautiful now.
All right, here is another shot of Granville. Yeah, Gude or Goody. I don't know, because I
Yeah.
know nearby there's some streets near me that are Goody, but I don't. This is Laurel, so I'm not sure. But yeah, I love that's an awesome shot of the frog, and you can see how it really is nestled in the trees. So great for summer.
Yeah, and my son, you can climb onto the frog to get up to the structure, which was really unique.
That is really fun. Okay, so another summer favorite. This is Bailey Park in Columbia.
Yes. So this park is fairly new. We went in the fall, but it's not huge, but it's unique. It's like this rope, as you can see, this rope dome. And when you go inside of it, there's all these different places to explore and things to climb on. I would say it isn't exactly like my youngest toddler couldn't do as much as my older toddler, who's 4 there, was easily able to, but the 2-year-old wasn't able to do as much. But it's just so unique and so cool. And there's a big slide on a huge hill that the children try to like climb up the hill. And this is by Whole Foods and also by a lake, which has a nice but the one just suggestion that I'll give parents is it doesn't have any boundary or I don't know, fence or anything against the lake. So this is a really good one for stroller, a little stroller ride. You go to the park. And then the reason I thought it would be great for summer is that 5 minutes down the road, if you drive, is Merriweather Colorburst Splash Pad, which is fairly new as well. I think it opened last year, and it's a really cool splash pad. They have different colors coming up from the fountains. And so, if you want to cool off, but you also want to check out a new playground or, do both, I think it would be a little nice day trip. And there's a lot of restaurants in Columbia and in that area.
That does sound like the perfect day. And to sort of switch things up. Oh, and here's a shot of this is the lake that you were mentioning.
Exactly. So they have that little barrier, but they didn't have a full on, fence. I can't think of the word right now. You could jump in. But my 2-year-old at the time, it felt a little dangerous. But then I told moms on my page, and they went and took strollers. So that's the cool thing with the page is we learn together and can make the right decisions.
Absolutely. Yeah. I can imagine. I have a 1.5-year-old and she would be like, I'm going swimming.
I know. It's like their mission when they know they shouldn't.
So this is one of my big questions for you is what are some hidden gems? So some playgrounds that you think are awesome that maybe are underappreciated by locals or just people just don't know about it as much. So they're not attended very, very well. So like, how can we discover these? And so this was one of your suggestions, Cedar Villa Heights in Laurel.
Yes. And before I talk about that one, I'll just say I love finding the hidden gems. I love big groups of people, which is weird since I lived in New York City for so long. But my son loves the quieter ones, so we found a handful. Some other ones that Huntington Park in Columbia and Jessup Park in Hanover, Atholston Park in Columbia. I'm in Howard County. Willowwood and Elk Ridge. So there's a bunch that are pretty quiet, and they're usually located either in a neighborhood or behind something. They're not necessarily on the lakes or something that draws more people. So I found this hidden gem. This is one of my favorite playgrounds as well, Cedar Villa Heights. It's just so funny because there's not one thing that makes a playground amazing, but we just had such a great day there. There was nobody there, and various parents who have gone since I've recommended it on my page, have said it's very quiet when they go. It's nestled back in a neighborhood. And there's street parking, which I also feel like deters some people from coming, but I had no problem parking. And this one, it was just spread out. There were swings in the middle with its own section. Again, my 2-year-old at the time is climbing up that section. And then my daughter's on the other side, like swinging from ropes. So it just had so much. It was bright. It was colorful. There's a little trail. There's a bench. I feel like it just suited all of us in the family. And that's always when it's a win.
Definitely. Let's see if I can move to the next. There we go. Okay, so this is another shot. Yeah, that's a huge structure.
Yeah, that was awesome. Where my daughter spent a lot of time, and she loved the trees and the big slides.
Okay, so this is another hidden gem, Shipley Park in Hanover.
Yes, we just went here. And that's why what you said earlier is so true. It changes. My list constantly changes. And this is across the highway from Arundel Mills Mall, so I would have thought it was very crowded, but it only had 1 to 2 families. One thing I should have also mentioned to you is that I go during the weekdays, usually in the morning. So I write that on my page. On my page, I write what time I went just to give people reference. So, sometimes parents will let me know how it is on the weekend to give that comparison. But when I went, there was only 1 to 2 families, and it was just we had a wonderful day. Even though the cicadas were there, it was awesome. So, because again, you see the two structures, I feel that really helps give children a little space. And there was a little shade under the smaller structure with something you could go under and pretend you were in a store, and had little dino fossils. And then above on the hill is a big shaded pavilion, and you could see the whole playground. So I sat up there to cool off. I could see them both. And then they came up, we had snacks, there was a porta pot right by. And it just felt, again, I think because I have multiple children, they're smaller, I like playgrounds that I can kind of see them at once. And again, give them their space, let them kind of do their thing. The other cool thing about this playground is there's airplanes flying above, and it's like another extra fun thing. And you can also, oh yeah, that's the little shaded part where he was being a little storekeeper and she was looking at the dinos and finding shade. And then 5 minutes, you can walk from this one to another small playground.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which is really cool for kids who get, kind of antsy fast.
Yeah, definitely. So when you were saying there are airplanes flying overhead, you mean like real airplanes, not just like a structure.
Yes, there are real airplanes. We saw about 4 or 5 while we were there.
Fun.
And it was just so fun. I mean, it's one of those things that children love.
Yeah.
Unless they're so exposed, they're not used, they're already used to it. But, my children love it. It was an adventure in itself.
Yeah, helicopters are a big hit in our house right now.
Right? It's the simple things.
Okay, so one of my other questions is specialty playgrounds, because there are a fair number out there. So what are some of the ones that you've been to that you like? And so one of the ones you mentioned was Sophie and Madigan's, and that's in Frederick.
Yes, I feel Sophie and Madigan's is really different in my opinion. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it was created in honor of 2 girls who lost their lives in a house fire. And it's just created with such love and designed to have all of their favorite things in mind when they created it, which happened to be castles and princesses and fairy tales. And so it's also designed to be accessible and welcoming to visitors of all ages, sizes, abilities. And when we went, it was crowded because it had just opened, but it was magical. It felt like going to Disney World or something. I mean, my daughter loves fairy tales, and it was she just was taken away by it. I was taken back by it too. And it had, it has a castle on the other side of that picture. You can see like the back of a castle. It had a spinner that was the colors of Rapunzel. It had a pumpkin you could sit in. Yeah, we could be here. You can sit in that pumpkin carriage and ride the horses. And it was just bright and colorful, and people were like giggling and laughing. It was really, really a special day. I'll definitely go back. And the other thing to note with this is that was just phase 1. In the fall, they'll be doing phase 2, which is like teacup spinners and a musical garden. And then there will be a phase 3, which they're raising money for. So if anyone's interested, I'm not affiliated with them, but I just think their mission's so amazing. They're raising money to build a phase 3. So this is going to be a hot spot. And I don't hear about, at least from other moms, as many Frederick playgrounds. So it was really an exciting thing for the area, I think.
Yeah, and I can see here there's even the climbing wall, so it could really appeal to multiple ages as well. And I love that it does have accessibility access as well. So hitting kids, of all needs and ages is really cool. Okay, so here is a playground for multiple ages. And then am I saying that right? Blandair Playground North in North Columbia?
Yeah, so it's Blandair Park. And the reason I wrote North is there's 2 Blandair parks. There was an original one built, which is a nice playground as well, but this is the new one. This is like hot to trot on all the Facebook groups. They just built it. It just opened. I went when it right opened, and it was so cool. I mean, it was just magnificent. It is of course going to be more crowded I just like to note that, because it's kind of a destination playground and it's new. So again, I just let people know that, but the reason I think it appealed for multiple ages, it was one of the only ones where I saw there was a space designated for crawlers, and it was off to the side. So this mom, like, she literally was like, I've never been able to like watch my 2-year-old there and then have my, baby in a safe space. And then there's things like that, which are huge. And I think older kids would like that, like middle schoolers even, that it was very high spaceships and it just had everything. And it told you in the map in the front, the ages. They had like 0 to 2, 2 to 5, 5 to 12. And it was huge. You could get space. It was really, really magnificent.
Wow. Yeah. I've never heard of a playground for crawlers. What sort of things did they have?
It was adorable. The ground itself was like something that they could crawl on and not put in their mouth. I forget what it was called. And then they had farm animals, fake ones, like a horse that they could go up and like touch. And it was like a farm, like little bit like hay. It wasn't actually hay, but it was just like cornered off too and fenced. So your child doesn't crawl away. Not that happens necessarily. It's usually the running toddlers that do that, but it was just, I had never seen something like that. And it was big. So, you wouldn't be able to see your children everywhere, but the section right next to it is the 2 and 5-year-olds. And there was a boat and a ship and the dinosaurs and dinosaur fossils. So it had everything. I mean, it was so cool.
That sounds really neat. So here's another one for multiple ages, Watkins Regional Park in Upper Marlboro.
Yes, I feel like this was the most recommended playground to me when I started my page. It's the Wizard of Oz playground is what most people know it as. And if you've ever seen the movie, if you know the story, the details they're awesome. And my daughter hadn't actually seen it before, but we told her the story and she just went off for hours in Imagination Land. They had, Dorothy's house, they had Toto's house, they had the red ruby slippers as slides, they had little Munchkin Land. I mean, it was really amazing. I was just shocked. Again, I was never like into playgrounds before this, but now I have such appreciation for all that went into creating this playground. And also I saw older kids there. I think they were middle schoolers, I don't know exactly the ages, but they were climbing on these rope thing, like structures. And there was so much to go in and out that I saw kids of all different ages. Like I saw really very little kids sitting on some areas. And then I saw older kids running. So I just felt like it could really appeal to multiple ages, especially if your, children know of the story at least.
It does sound a really, really fun place. Okay, here's another shot with the sort of balloon-like structures. That's so fun. And then just in general, your favorite playgrounds that you've come across so far. So this is Walker Mill Regional in Capitol Heights.
Yes. So it was really hard because I've been to so many but Walker Mill Regional is one of the ones that my daughter still asks for. So that's how I know it's a favorite. I mean, we went months ago. She's wearing a hat, you can tell. And this actually, I also found out, has misters that aren't working now, but it does have misters and they're off because of COVID right now, but that's something to keep in mind for parents. Maybe next year, that's a good summer one. This was a woodland wonderland. It was called. It had animals everywhere, fake ones, and a scavenger hunt to find things, a huge slide, like life-size cute ants, not scary ants, maybe some kids. My daughter loved it. Big fake ladybugs and logs to climb in, slides. I mean, when I feel like I was taken aback, I was just like, this is so cool. And I'm, not a kid. And they had shaded spots to eat in, and even their tables were cool. I mean, it was like Watkins where everything was like planned out, all the details.
Oh yeah. Here's one of the slides.
Yeah. Going the wrong way.
It's more fun that way.
All the kids do that.
Oh yeah. So many fun things. Lots of different slides too, I can see, because definitely that's always a thing in my family, because, I have 2 little ones as well. And sometimes, one slide is suddenly very scary and they like those tube slides can be super intimidating, but then sometimes you're feeling brave and you're like, yeah, I really want to stretch myself and try out the tube slide.
Totally. It's nice to have options. And that one, you can tell, looks kind of like, it looks challenging. So that's something for older kids too. It's nice when you can get multiple.
Absolutely. And then here's another favorite, Alpha Ridge in Marriottsville.
Yes, this one nobody recommended to me. I found on my own. And so it's two playgrounds and a solar system walk. So this is the
Cool.
first playground, and my daughter loves solar systems. So we did a solar system like day at home, and then we went here. This was the first playground. My 2-year-old couldn't really do this. I mean, he could kind of touch those little bottom like orange things, but I'll say this is for a little bit older. But
Okay.
just like it's so aesthetically pleasing and like cool. I don't know. It just appealed to me. So we started off there. My daughter kind of, went down the slide. She enjoyed it more. And then we went on a solar system walk. And it's representative of the distance that the planets are supposed to be from each other. And so you walk along and it's signs. So, maybe a 1-year-old might not, know what it says, but it was still kind of the idea of it. It was fun for me too, right? And we were going to the different planets. And there is kind of a gazing deck building, but that wasn't open when we went. And then it leads you, if you go down the whole solar system walk, to another playground, which is for small children. And my son loved, and it was simple, but it has everything you need. Again, the log they could climb through. They had like a fake fish, it looked like water on the ground, and an owl with the swings. So again, it just felt like it hit different people. Everyone was able to find a little something they liked. And it was also, sometimes people get bored at one playground, so it give you options. So we just had such a wonderful morning when we went there, and nobody was there when we went on a weekday morning.
That's awesome. And then, so I think this is the last one. Is that right, Katrina?
Yes, that's
Okay.
the last of the list.
And then I'd love if you had a couple up your sleeve as well to talk about with other places that you had in mind, both that you wanted to visit. And I think some of them are in the Annapolis area. And I'd love to hear just what you were thinking in terms of that.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you how I figured out that I didn't have that many playgrounds in the Annapolis area, because I'm doing a summer contest through my page of like who can visit the most of the 50 playgrounds. And when I did it, I organized it by, city or town, and I didn't have many in Annapolis. So I asked my moms, help me out, find some in that area. And the three that were recommended to me, that when I did a little Google, they look cool. Broadneck Park, which has a ship. So we definitely have to go there. Quiet Waters Park, which I've heard from a lot of people, has a water and a pathway, but also a playground. So I love that when there's multiple things to do. And then Truxton, maybe you've heard of that, Truxton Park, is I'm saying that right?
Mm-hmm.
When I Googled it too, it just looked like a very inviting, friendly playground. And so I just feel like there's a whole world outside of there. So those are the top three right now that I have that I want to visit when I go to the Annapolis area.
Well, that sounds like you already have a lot on your list. And I'm sure there are many, many, many more. So with that, I have sort of two more questions. One is, what do you recommend parents know about playgrounds, and like how can you best prepare your playground day, sort of other tips and tricks you have? And then I really want to make sure we talk about how parents can follow you, how families can keep track of your playground journeys, because you are just a wealth of knowledge, and the more people that can share and learn, and the better. And I'm sure that's true for you too, because you're like, yeah, give me some playground tips.
Exactly. Yeah.
So first, let's talk about after all these playgrounds, what do you recommend that people need to know for a big playground day?
Yeah. So I think if you want to avoid crowds, you want to plan your time to either go in the morning. I know that's hard for some people, but it's worth it. Or the early evening. You don't want to go, or even if you have children that don't nap, maybe you could go at nap time if you're feeling adventurous, where you think most kids are napping. But if you're there from 10 to 12 on a weekend, you're probably going to be there with people. And if you don't mind, that's fine. But I like to give that tip that we've got to plan our timing, and then, plan for the sun. A lot of people ask me for shaded playgrounds, and I give them my suggestions, but there just aren't enough, and it gets sunny. It's summer. So I would say I like have my children inside before we go to the playground day, and stay inside in the AC, play a little, go to the playground, get hot, sweaty, and then go back inside to cool off, bring water, and always bring snacks. Always bring snacks, and I try not to bring peanut butter because of, kids' allergies. My kids don't, but if you do bring something like that, wait till they're back in the car to eat it. But you can have it in the car, have it kind of luring them in. I know bribery is not great, but it works. So always bring snacks.
That's a great suggestion. And that is also an important thing to remember in terms of allergies. And then most importantly, where can people follow you, and how can people reach you and learn more about the local playgrounds?
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram at Maryland Kiddos. I'm not on Facebook right now through the account. I do it all through Instagram. I also, as I mentioned, since I have a master's in counseling psychology, I also have another page called Connecting with Katrina, where you can access my email, which is connectingwithkatrina@gmail.com. So you can message me about playgrounds there too. And I run in-person forest classes I'm starting, and some virtual
Oh,
things with
nice.
parents. So there's some other resources for parents as well. But yeah, so you can check me out on Instagram or email me, and I'd be happy. Parents reach out and say, "I'm going here. I'm meeting a friend halfway. What do you suggest?" And I love working with you guys and helping. Because you guys help me
Awesome.
too. I'm talking to you like you're the parent, but yeah, no. And if anyone's interested in the summer contest to see if they can visit the most playgrounds, go check out my page and join.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Katrina, for joining me today and talking about your experience at all the different playgrounds in the area. And I can't wait to learn more and hear about more exciting adventures. Thank you also to all of our viewers and listeners out there. Make sure that you do visit ChesapeakeFamily.com for all our up-to-date local information for Maryland parents. This episode will be archived on ChesapeakeFamily.com in both video and podcast format. So check that out. And we'll also post links to Katrina so you can follow her and learn more about the local area playgrounds. I'm Janet Jefferson with Chesapeake Family Life and Third Floor Views. Thanks so much.